Bust it.
Hello and thanks for staying with us. It's Political Platform, a program where we give you updates, reports and analysis on topical political stories. We also dwell into the economy when it involves political economy. This Wednesday is all about the president's action. He will any moment from now fly down to Yobe State as part of his visits to troubled spots. The president, if you recall, was in Benue State 2 days ago, and Yobe is in the picture because of the Dapchi schoolgirls incident. 110 of them in captivity under the Boko Haram as we speak, and the president feels it's necessary to extend his tour of states to Yobe State. Will he get to Dapchi itself? We don't know yet, but the feelers we are getting is that it's unlikely. The president yesterday again sacked the coordinator of the amnesty program, Paul Boro, and asked Professor Charles Dokubo to step in. Beyond that, the president asked the National Security Advisor to investigate allegations of financial infraction since 2015 when Paul Boro took office, and again asked, is the NSA an investigative agency? Is it not an intelligence gathering agency? Should the president not have asked the EFCC, ICPC also, two institutions empowered by laws and by the operations to investigate corruption? These are the issues. If we recall, the time the president asked the Attorney General to investigate an allegation of corruption was to raise issues saying it is a prosecutorial organ and may not necessarily be well versed on the issues of investigation of corruption. But the president has also vetoed the amendments effected to the Electoral Act by both chambers of the National Assembly. He says if the proposal of the National Assembly is allowed to sail through to negate the powers of Independent National Electoral Commission to indeed conduct and supervise elections. My colleagues are here. Our man and friend and colleague Mustafa Mohammed is back after a long time from some medical leave. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amechi, and thank you for all the concerns I've been receiving. The biggest thing is the president's, one of the biggest things is the president's visits to the various troubled spots. But I've been asking myself, why are things different in Nigeria? In other countries, if there are troubles and their president even happen to be outside the nation, will actually cut short their foreign trips and they go back to the troubled spot. There were a lot of debates why the president was not on those troubled spots immediately some of this happened, like Taraba where the killings continue. These places are actually ceremonial, and we've not even asked ourselves, how did we get to this position? Why we couldn't stop these killings or kidnappings? And all Nigerians are talking about now, especially our political leaders, are the schemes about 2019 general election. If they live in that will do the election. And the biggest problem about talking of 2019 election is that the Nigerian masses have become so ignorant and carried away without any apology. Nobody is asking about how many of the political promises, campaign promises, those elected to the president position have fulfilled. There are so many lists of items they promised they were going to do to the Nigerian nation. Unfortunately, Nigerian electors are not asking. Anybody who has not fulfilled his promise, whether the president, governor, senator, you should think again whether you should give him, your vote again. You may even leave your political party.
Your PVC is the key to that. Ichama Samuel is also on the program.
Of course, Amechi, your PVC is the key to whether you want to continue or you want to vote in the change. I think INEC came up with a statement that they may burn or destroy PVCs that are not collected, I want to see that as a point of call to those who have not collected their PVCs to go collect it, because you cannot burn the PVC of an eligible voter in Nigeria. That will raise so many questions. You will be cutting down their rights. You will not allow them to vote. You know that Nigerians are kind of people, until it gets close to 2019 elections, they will not remember that they need to collect their PVCs. If at this time the electoral umpire is saying that they will destroy PVCs because they need to clean up the register, they need to think twice before they take that.
Yes, what state was it? One of the resident electoral commissioners, is it Ondo or where?
Yes.
One of the southwest states who confirmed. He says over about 300,000 of the PVCs that are yet to be collected may be destroyed. And there's another news, we shared it with you some time ago on this program, and nearly 1.5 million PVCs yet to be collected in Lagos. So it's a huge chunk. Should the Electoral Commission make extra effort, bend backwards, to ensure that those that registered collected, or should we just take the option of destruction?
Destroying them. No, if they do that, some persons will go to court. You cannot destroy my PVC. You do not know whether those people are hospitalized. You do not know where they are. You don't know their present condition.
But we always continue to appeal to Nigerians. So many people will tell you, I registered in Taraba.
Yes.
I'm now in Sokoto, or I'm now in Abuja. You have to go back to where you registered. It's a civic responsibility. There are pains and costs that come with such, but you must do so. Okay, our colleague again, Uju Eje, is also with us in the studio.
Amici, I am worried. I hope that after the president's visit, there will be no killings again. There will be no new killings in Yobe, because that has been the trend. Remember, 2 days ago, I raised this concern on what happened in Benue State, what happened in Taraba, what happened in Plateau.
25 were told were killed yesterday.
And the killings have continued.
Well, the president has queried the Inspector General of Police. He visited, was summoned to the villa early Tuesday morning. He did not speak to journalists.
They met for about 30 minutes.
For 30 minutes, we heard that the president insisted that full report of police operations in Benue till date, since that crisis started, should be forwarded to him. There's so much pressure on the president to sack the Inspector General. Is it a cat with 9 lives? There's so much controversy surrounding the IG when he came into office. Is his cup full? I recall my mother would always remind me that my cup is almost full. In my younger days, reminding me
Time for Bulala.
The last mistake I made should be the last one. Is the IG's cup full this time around?
Amechi, the president is an ex-military man. I think the president is ruling Nigeria with a new spirit. Because in the military, if you default, the last order is what you respect. If you don't, you are bound to face the consequences of defaulting. What the IG did, anyway, the president says they are still investigating it.
Still under
If at the end of the investigation, and they found out that the IG actually did what the president, in fact, for the president to even say, I can't imagine that an IG or police disobeyed his order, the last command.
I mean, even looking beyond just what the president said in Benue, look at what has been happening. The responsibility of the Nigeria police. Have they really carried it out in terms of protecting Nigerians, protection of life and property? It falls on the purview of the police in a civil society, in a civil environment. We're not in a militocracy. So the police has the greater responsibility to protect these people that are being hacked down every day. Has it displayed the capacity to carry out those duties?
Fallout from the president's visit. He was in Plateau earlier. And we can tell you that there's a big rift between the governor, that's Simon Lalong, and the Minister of Sports, Solomon Dalong.
The two longs, right?
Lalong and Dalong. They're slugging it out in Plateau as we speak. Solomon Dalong, the sports minister, says the action of the governor in renaming part of the one of the key roads in Jos, the Plateau State capital, the Yakubu Gowon Way, part of it was renamed Muhammad Buhari Way. There is a disservice to the late
and
the former head of
an
state.
illustrious son of
Yes,
Ghana.
that is a disrespect and a disservice to him that the governor shouldn't have done that. There are so many other issues they have disagreed and washing their dirty linen in public. And we ask, are they not of the APC? As soon as you are in APC states,
APC is a party with strange bedfellows. Virtually, they are not looking at the various problems the states are actually going through. Going back to the issue of the purview of the police, we are not also talking about the capacity of our policemen, the training, the equipment, welfare, communication. You need to line up 5 policemen and look at the various boots they are wearing. Look at the various they are wearing. A lot of them train to work. You send them for assignment in trouble spot without adequate equipment or welfare. How can the police solve this killing?
That's why the IG will disobey the president.
Let's bring in our viewers' comments, suggestions, and opinion on topical issues as we share some of the news we selected from our email box, political platform @yahoo.com.
Hello and welcome to the news segment.
Welcome.
We begin with from Lagos, where Hakim Kazim says, as the news broke of President Buhari's rejection of the electoral bill, particularly the sequence of elections, INEC should take a second look at the timetable and play an impartial referee by collapsing the 2019 election and subsequent elections into a one-day affair, thereby reducing cost, duplication of logistics, and removing the accusation of bias against or in favor of any contestant. INEC should further look at the responsibility of the staggered elections, of separating national and state assembly elections from presidential and governorship elections, as is done in the US midterm elections, to strengthen the independence, continuity, and vitality of the respective assemblies, and thereby removing or reducing the undue influence and manipulation by the executive. Finally, to give INEC the real independence it deserves, the body must be yanked from the executive branch and placed under the judiciary in its constitution, appointment, and funding. May God bless Nigeria.
And on the recall of Honorable Abdulmumin Jibrin, Dixon Eka in Abuja says, 16 months after the suspension of Honorable Abdulmumin Jibrin, the House finally lifted his suspension after an apology, and he has regained his freedom to participate in legislative activities for his constituency. The National Assembly should be aware of the fact that when a lawmaker is suspended, the entire constituency is put off national legislative decisions, not allowing a particular federal constituency to participate in national decisions since September 28, 2016, which is more than the 180 legislative days for which he was suspended, is outrageous and unacceptable. While I am not in support of some careless statements by some lawmakers against the institution of the National Assembly, giving outrageous punishment is totally unacceptable and should be checked. I urge our lawmakers to respect the institution of the National Assembly and act in the best interest of the people they represent.
That's it on the main segment today. Continue to write to us to True Political Platform @yahoo.com.
Thank you so much for remaining with us. One of our listeners expressing concern over the lengthy suspension leadership of both chambers of the National Assembly heap on some erring members. We told you on this program some days ago that the judgment that flowed from the case Ali Ndume instituted against the Senate after his suspension, the judge was very clear that the National Assembly cannot suspend a member for more than 14 days. Any other further suspension should, or the right to keep a member away from the National Assembly resides with the constituents and not the leadership of the National Assembly or the National Assembly itself. There are so many infractions we have tolerated in the past because they say it's a learning process. We are still on the learning curve as far as this democracy is concerned. I recall when former President Obasanjo imposed state of emergency in Plateau State. Erroneously, the governor was forced to vacate office when the law was very clear and straight that it is the parliament that should be suspended. We allowed it to go. Now, the National Assembly has been suspending members for 6 months, 180 legislative days. We hope that in future they will take heed of that judgment and not suspend anybody beyond that 14 days. But let's start with the action of the president in vetoing the amendments to the Electoral Act. It says the National Assembly members wanted 3 different days for election, with the National Assembly election starting first. But the president has raised a number of objections, saying that the action will contravene some provision of the Constitution. What should the National Assembly do now? Can they override the president's veto? Since 1999, it's only once that the National Assembly overrode the veto of a president, and that was with the establishment of the Niger Delta Development Commission. The president then, Obasanjo, was not happy with some provisions in the past bill, but the lawmakers insisted and overrode the president's veto. Now, how can this present National Assembly do it? In the Senate, they need to pass that bill again with 2/3 majority. 109 senators, 72 is number of senators is required to override the veto. For the House of Representatives, where have 360, they need to pull 240 members. The law says 2/3 of the National Assembly as constituted, not those present that day. So it's a Herculean task. You can understand why it's only once since 1999 that a veto has been overridden. So it's very difficult, pretty difficult to do. Some senators, some House members have been speaking to the media, and they said they would organize and ensure that any attempt to override the president's veto will fail. They have the numbers, such as Alim Dume. He spoke with the National Daily yesterday and said there are about 43 of them in the Senate that is in support of the president.
Amici, I think that over the years it has been difficult to override the president's veto, because the National Assembly would ordinarily weigh all the options and look for ways of resolving the issue. I think overriding the president's veto is usually the last resort of the lawmakers, because they understand and appreciate the fact that they have to work in harmony with the president in the interest of the people they represent. So it's usually the last option. As for this case on hand, I honestly think that we are going to see a lot of power play between the legislature and the presidency in this case, because most of them are actually determined. It's an election year. A lot of them want to go into the election, and they are thinking that riding on the back of the president may not favor them as much as it did in 2015, and they want to do away with that. I see them, you know, in desperation, attempting to override his veto. But I also think that in a way they would look maybe for one last option to see if he can assign it as a statesman, you know.
Just 1 second, let's bring in an expert opinion here. Ngozi Kaihoma is of the Legislative Watch, a non-governmental organization tracking activities inside the parliament. Thank you so much, Ngozi Kaihoma, for joining us. So we have a situation on our hands, the president vetoing the bill, but the National Assembly members, there are talks that they may want to override it. How possible is it, and how do you interpret the whole development?
First of all, let me say that the president is not veto. The president withheld his assets, that is the federal language. The Russian language, he withheld his assets. And he has given reason for why we should his assets. So, procedurally, what will happen now is that the parliament will receive communication from it, showing that within the 30 days window, he did not access his bill. Now they will consider, they go back to the parliament, both chambers, to consider what reasons he gave, see whether they are genuine and germane. If they are, they concur with him. If they are not, they will now be going back, another decision, and agree or disagree with him, and forward back to him to decide. It is when he withdraws his assets for the second time that then it will come back to the parliament. Now the parliament is going to override. Let us not override. He only withholds his assets. But the parliament cannot override him by getting today of 2 chambers to pass it. That doesn't require an asset. It comes at all.
So we may likely see the National Assemblies, some of them like the Senate went into executive session yesterday where we hope they discuss the issues. So we may likely see a response to that letter from the President, from the National Assembly back to him.
That is what will happen. They will consider the validity because they gave the validity. Some of it are constitutional and other. But let me please say that the role of people like Femi Falana in trying to use the media to canvass opinion, even when those opinions are not that of the Supreme Court, is appalling.
No, I think he has his role, right of opinion. He can express his opinion on any topical issue, just as you're doing yours now.
Hold on. If he has an opinion as a lawyer, the best thing would have been for him to take whatever it is in the court, and not in the court of public opinion. Because I know their contact with the media and their romance with the media.
No, I still insist he has right to express his own opinion in the media. He can also go to court as well.
Let me read. What is important is the fact that the parliament is still within its own ambit of going to the cases and accused by Mr. President in withholding his assets. If they consider it germane and they have met the amendment, they will forward it back to Mr. President with his assets. And if he gets back to Mr. President and he finds foreign release documents, and then he will withhold his assets and return to it. At this point, there will be no other thing than for the two chambers to see and then veto. That is used today to pass the 2010 amendment act, and then it becomes a law without assent of Mr. President.
How possible is that? Only once since 1999 is an uphill task for the parliament.
It is not. What the only thing we will do is we are doing our democracy. Okay? This is not a conflict. We are not about the issue of law. Laws are made, and if or was make it different. I know in the case of June 4, 1984. Okay? Then those Williams went to court and he canvassed for about 6 hours before the Supreme Court, and the chief of police was on the other side of government. And at the end of the day, what we asked is or an order. Okay, it looks very nice, but this is an very an order was what they were arguing for 12 hours in the Supreme Court. And at the end of the day, the government the wall, it becomes not an order. So such phrase can lead into Mr. President withholding his assets. Such phrase can lead into the parliament overriding him and then getting the law passed. What is the order result was passed? But let me advise INEC. Those who are telling them that they can go to court, they will not risk. Because if they challenge the powers of the National Assembly to make law, when they come for completion, they will set them aside. Either way, you are going to have time with them and make sure they don't work. Let them not try that option.
I also want to add that the INEC can go to court. The last time the National Assembly made attempts to amend the Electoral Act as to the sequence of the election, INEC went to court and got a favorable judgment. So they can still go to court, but for now INEC has not gone to court. A party, I think a court party, has gone to court to challenge that action. But we have to thank you so much, Ngozuka,
for your input. But actually ask this big question. On this order of election, who is afraid of losing election? If you look at what happened before the last general election, the intelligence community and observers have told the former president that this election that will take place may not favor him. And as a result, the election was extended with an excuse that it was because of security reasons. What happened? He eventually lost the election. So I'm looking at it, it's not the order of the election. Something is happening in this country. Yes. Nigerians are so conscious about the failure of those they elected to deliver on their electoral promises. Even the APC is split into so many camps. And I can tell you without any apology that there are so many people at different cadre of the political structure who cannot win election in the next general election. I've seen people who have even changed the party they are in. You see, if you move around even the big city, Abuja, Kaduna, Lagos, Port Harcourt, you see the stickers of the opposition within the same party of those who have won the election. So we will sit back and see the magic that will happen in the next general election. But 1 year is not too late to fulfill campaign promises. But if you refuse to do that, Nigerians are not, excuse me for, or foolish. They know what they are doing. They will get you out using their voters card.
And Amici, let me just quickly add that the case that you cited about INEC going to court is not exactly what is on ground now, because if you recall, at that time, the National Assembly tried to fix both the sequence and the date. But this time, they have left the timing to the to INEC, the electoral umpire. They only suggested the sequence.
What I'm saying is that INEC can go to court and lose, but they have that leave to go
of course, certainly.
Amici, are they trying to change the Electoral Act? Make me understand. Without checking the Constitution. From what the President wrote, the Constitution gives INEC the right to arrange, to coordinate, and anything that has to do with elections and supervise elections. So if you want to change the order, you need to go change the Constitution first.
But this time around, there are some provisions in the Electoral Act that the National Assembly amended now, which they did not amend the other time, which they believe have created room for them to do what they just did. But we leave the matter to be decided by the courts. Yes, good enough. A court party has gone to court. Part of their resolution was that the president should be restrained from signing. The president has opted not to sign for now, so that one has been cleared. But the constitutionality and legality of the actions of the National Assembly is what will indeed come up for determination by the court.
Who is afraid? Are members of the National Assembly afraid of their coming back, or they think that the president will not come back? I think according to what Mustafa said, something is happening that we, the Nigerians, don't understand. They need to make us understand.
We have to.
Actually,
they're afraid. Everybody's afraid.
They want to go it on their own because they believe that some of them, their chances may be mad by attaching themselves to
the names of
the same name that gave you your victory.
So, in a way, if we have to look at it dispassionately, I have also talked to the other smaller political parties, and they believe that it will favor them. That we may begin to see parties
to reduce the bandwagon effect.
To reduce the bandwagon
effect. Good news from the Senate yesterday. It is kind of U-turn from it. They said they are not ready to screen the nominees into the board of the CBN and the Monetary Policy Committee. For that only, you know, the Senate has a policy not to ratify the appointments made by the president because of the status of the acting AFCC chairman. But because of pressures from experts, international financial institutions, including the IMF and World Bank, the Senate has said they would ratify them to make the MPC meet to set our monetary policy rates. The much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thank you so much for being part of it. We'll return on Thursday with another edition. On behalf of my colleagues, my name is Amici and enjoy your day.
Busted.